The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericaempowerment.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Welcome to Living Well with Ann Beal. Our show is a health show, a lifestyle show, and an empowerment show rolled into one. Get ready to hear some stories of success, healthy living tips, and suggestions to get motivated and live your best life. Now, here is your host, Ann Beal.
Hi, I'm Ann Beal, your host from Life Solutions. If you are listening today, you have decided to be empowered and to learn to get your needs met. And that would be so amazing because guess what? When you get your needs met, you know what happens? You actually feel loved. Yes, I know there are people out there that tell you they love you and they care about you, but you may doubt that they really love you. If you can't admit you have needs, then you can't ask for what you want. If I had a need, I felt needy. How did you feel about that, Dr. Slaughter?
Yeah, I mean, when we have needs that aren't met, then we struggle in a lot of different ways.
And to have a need, for me, if I needed anything, and just the word need bothered me, because if I needed something, that meant I was needy, meaning if I needed something from someone else. And so if you can't admit you have needs, then you can't ask for what you want. And I couldn't admit I had a need. I felt needy if I did that. Like somehow I should magically just know how to do everything and not have any needs, that I should just be so fulfilled and so capable and so able that I didn't need anything from anyone else. I would let them ask from me, and I would give to people and give to people and give to people. But I wouldn't ask back. And even if I did ask back, I felt guilty about that. And so one day, the best thing that ever happened to me is that I realized I was actually just human to have needs. And started identifying my needs. And that's what we want to show you today. And I have Dr. Jim Slaughter on the show today as well with me. And we want to help you start identifying your needs and learn how to meet those needs.
Yeah, it's one of the most important tasks in a person's life, actually, I think. And the thing is, though, that we've been programmed, actually, from the very beginning of our lives, just about not to have needs, or at least not to express them, because to do that, we're told, is a selfish thing. It's something that we should consider of others, not ourselves. It's our task to meet other people's needs and not want our own to be met. And so I think as we get older and we get into the later stages of our lives, that lingering feeling of being devalued or being incomplete, or that there's something wrong with us if we have needs, persists. And so we feel bad sometimes that we have needs or that we're needy. And rather than expressing what we would like, we just hold it in, and we become frustrated and angry sometimes.
When I met you, I think one of the things that I loved about you is that you gave so much. You were constantly catering to me, and it felt so good. You did it with everyone, not just me. And I didn't realize that's how you were trying to get your needs met, that if you did that for me, then I would do it back, or things like that. And so one of the ways, if you aren't really sure if you're having a hard time getting your needs met, here's some questions. Do you find yourself giving into others' wishes too often? And so you have a hard time saying no. And do you say yes most of the time, and then maybe even at times regret that? Are you afraid to ask for a raise or a promotion? Do you say often, oh, whatever you want to do, or I don't mind, that's fine? The words fine and I don't mind for you use more than most people. You have a hard time making decisions, maybe. And so we want to help you know how to get your needs met, because if you can't get your needs met, it's easy to feel overwhelmed resentful, and isolated. Needs are actually a natural part of being human, and we want to help you know how to fulfill your needs so you can be confident and successful.
Yeah, and when our needs aren't met, we just aren't happy people. And we don't feel fulfilled. We feel devalued. We get stressed. We feel anxiety and anger. And like you said, we feel unloved. And so there's a real strong correlation between living a happy life and having our needs met. And one of the first things to understand is that having our needs met is not a selfish thing.
Well, and having your needs met in a good way. I mean, people do it in different ways. I think there are people who just silently wait. They're not honoring their needs. They don't know how. So they silently wait for their loved ones to fulfill their needs instead of really knowing how to take responsibility for those needs themselves. And so they end up feeling victimized by the person and people around them, or they punish themselves for not having the courage to reach out.
Yeah, and what we do is we end up manipulating other people to try and get them to meet our needs.
But isn't it interesting that some people manipulate by being quiet, but they don't know they're doing that silently,
Right.
and then they kind of get passive aggressive.
Subconscious, right?
They haven't learned how to outwardly ask. And then there are other people who there's so much drama. I mean, and one of the things I've learned is not to do the drama to get my needs met. But I did not know. I mean, I tried silently for a long time and that didn't work. And then I got to the point where I tried the other side, which was to, demand or wait until I got so upset that I was pretty dramatic, maybe even Taz-like. And that didn't work either. It just made people mad.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
there is, finding that happy middle was really great. And we have books and tools to suggest for you as well after the show. So you can, on your own, learn even more about this.
And we're going to suggest at the end of the program some steps that you can take if you're listening out there with us today to begin getting your needs met. It's important even to know what your needs are. I know when I began going through some work to determine my needs and to learn how to get them met, I didn't even really know what my primary needs were, my emotional needs I'm talking about now. And so the part of the exercise was to go through a list of potential needs and pare it down so that I knew what my needs were.
Yes, and I think the real key to doing it well is to not do it, not be pushy, not be manipulative, and always with integrity. And that's what we want you to be able to do, because you have a right to your opinions, your thoughts, your wants, your needs. But when our needs conflict with those around us, it can be torture to fight for our rights or to just give in, because your body's going to start crying out because it can't handle the lack of getting its needs met long term. And so what will happen is you'll get resentful and bitter over time. And so somehow your body's going to cry out, whether you come outwardly in a controlled, purposeful way and able to do it with integrity and do it well, or you do it in a pushy, manipulative way. And so we want you to know how to do it purposefully. So what we want to teach you today is how to get your needs met without the drama and without doubting yourself. And part of that is first to identify your needs. And Dr. Slaughter's going to help us do this today. He has a program specifically for how to get your needs met. And he does that in his life coaching at Life Solutions. So what do you think is the first things that you would like to share?
Wow, it's hard to know what to put first, but one of the things that I think it's important for us to understand is that the main reason that we have a hard time understanding what our needs really are and articulating that and getting those needs met is that we've been so programmed to believe our needs are unimportant or they're selfish. And that usually comes from authority figures early in our lives who will tell us to be quiet, tell us we don't need that, this, that, whatever. But, as we grow up, we begin to, in a subconscious way, tell ourselves that we really don't need that. It doesn't matter if our needs aren't met. It's selfish to think I need my needs met. And so knowing where all the conflict comes from in our thinking is an important thing. We have a list of needs that we present to people who come for coaching, though, you and I. And I don't know if it would be best to read all of those off so people can think about them or what, if that's what you'd like to do.
Because, to identify your needs, which is what we want to help you do first, it's, kind of better for us to kind of ground down for you what it is we're talking about. So here are some needs. Now, you just pick out what kind of resonates with you, what you feel like, oh, that's definitely one of my main needs. I mean, some of these you'll think, wow, doesn't everybody need that? Well, yeah. But what we're talking about is what are your top 3 or your top 2? Even if you identify your top 1 that you need right now, then that really, if you identify it, then you can know how to meet it. And that's what we're going to help you do. So here are some: to be valued, to be loved, to be creative, to feel special, to be included, to be needed, to have attention or be noticed, to be cared for, to receive affection, I'll just run down them: achievement, fairness, security, fun, appreciation, praise, order, encouragement, to be safe, acknowledgement, respect, honesty, recognition, influence, stimulation. I know a lot of kids today, they constantly need stimulation. Trust, leadership, fulfillment, acceptance, to be wanted, friendship, to be correct, heard or listened to, freedom, to be free. We kid around about me because I always like to be out in the air on my bike. I like a sunroof, or I just need to be open, and to be closed in just feels. So I started realizing that one of my needs is freedom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why I don't have a boss. Learning that. And so it's really interesting when you find out what they are, because they really are different than maybe what you would think. Balance and unity, calmness, peace. I know that's one of yours, Jim.
Yeah, calmness and peace.
Calmness and peace. To do the right thing, to be important, to be wanted, to be noticed, to experience adventure, and to be honored. So those are just different ones that a lot of our coaching clients have chosen. And you might have other ones that you think of. And so if you try to identify it, some of them are similar, like to be cared for, to be valued, to be loved. And I've had people choose all 3 of those. And that's what they chose. Or to be special, to be cared for, to be valued. And so those have to do with, it's just the word that resonates with them better, even though they're similar. And so part of finding out, if you need fun and adventure, that's a very important need. There are people, and it's interesting how people end up together, that the mate will really need calmness and peace, not fun and adventure. And so that is an adventure working with those 2 people, how to get their needs met.
Yeah, and there's a balance in that too, because the person who has a need for calmness and peace, they need downtime, more regularly than maybe somebody else. That doesn't mean that that there's no place for adventure and fun and activity and that kind of thing, working out and exercising, whatever it may be, exploring new places. Everybody needs balance in their lives, and so
that's a need.
Balance. Yeah. I wanted to say also, as you've read those things, there may be some that do seem kind of selfish, maybe, but it's important as we think about our needs not to ascribe to a need a hierarchy of value. They're all, if it's a need, it's your need. That's what you need. Okay, and the important thing is to go about getting the need met in the right way. Usually we go about meeting our needs in wrong ways.
Yes, so I think that an example of that would be one of mine, which I didn't know, was to be safe.
Uh-huh.
And you noticed over time things that no one would ever have noticed, like my black belt in karate and things like that, that it became clear when we were doing coaching ourselves that one of mine seemed like there was this safety factor for me that I needed to feel safe. And you picked up on that. And so you helped me with that. But I had already, and that's what you noticed, had done quite a few things. You know, if like I would never live in an all glass house. And in Malibu where we lived, there were people that did have those houses. And I would think I would never live there. And I didn't even know why I said that. I just knew people could break in, you could break the glass, right? And so I took, I made sure that what I live in, I feel safe in. What I drive in, I feel safe in. You know, when I bike, this is the dichotomy of that is, some people would never bike because they wouldn't feel safe. And so I had roads and equipment and all that. But so for me, it was things I did to feel safe. Instead of expecting someone else to keep me safe, when I identified that, I was like, wow, I do that for myself. And it's a weird one because for me, most people would, no one really, except people that live with me kind of know that I'm like that. So I'm not freaky, guys. I just want to clarify that.
And what you said, though, points out the distinction between people when it comes to needs. You would not live in a glass house in Malibu.
No.
Someone else might want a glass house in Malibu because they would think, man, I get to see this wonderful view every single day.
Yeah, because that need for openness.
Yeah,
right?
or beauty.
Or
in
beauty.
Their lives. Yeah,
yes.
Be surrounded by beauty is a need that people have sometimes.
That's one of yours, right? Isn't it?
Actually, it is a need of mine, yeah.
Yeah. And
I love to be surrounded by beautiful things, including you.
And you need it, though. you tend to need it. And I think when we say need, like, it affects you emotionally if you don't have beauty around you. And, I don't watch the news much, talk radio much, because it starts making me freaky. I just told you I wasn't freaky. But what I'll do is I strategize in my head all the ways if all these things happen, right? Like, oh, I need to do this and need to do that. And I don't want to be an extreme prepper or somebody like that. But it starts, really what happens is it starts scaring me. And so for me to stay well, I have to minimize that. It's not that I never do it. I do it in a healthy way. I have ways to get my news without listening to the drama because, the way to get you to watch the news is to scare you, to get you to watch all the time, or to get you to, you've got to be a little edgy and not calm and peaceful, or you wouldn't need to turn on TV like that and watch the news. And so for me, I have ways of calming that down.
Sure.
And so once that it was discovered that was one of my needs, it really helped me immensely to get rid of it. And so anyway, that is just the intro on identifying your needs. And so definitely we've come up with 3 with our coaching clients. So we want to suggest that you pick out 3. And you can Google a needs list. And you can see they'll show all these lists. I mean, there's so many lists out there. So it's not just this one if you missed it. So do that. Identify your needs. And we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back from break, we're going to tell you how to meet those needs. So stay right here and we'll be right back.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
Life Solutions Coaching and Counseling in Fort Worth, Texas is a full-service wellness clinic providing individual, group, and family counseling, one-on-one coaching for life and wellness, and naturopathic treatments of medical massage therapy combined with essential oils to ensure you reach your health and wellness goals. Sessions are available in person or by phone. Get started on your new life today. Just call 817-232-1363 or go to LifeSolutionsCoachingandCounseling.com or email them at LifeSolutionsCC@yahoo.com.
Sunshine Herbs in Saginaw, Texas, on Main Street, Business 287, has all of your supplement needs and healthy food products. So, my suggestion for you, visit Sunshine Herbs today and let their knowledgeable staff who know all their products and their naturopathic doctor lead you to a life of health and wellness so that you too can live well.
Build your better business. Achieve that goal. Make good on that resolution. the Voice America Empowerment Channel. It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed.
You are listening to Living Well with Ann Beal. We'd love to hear from you with comments and questions about the show. Please send us an email to ablivingwell@gmail.com. That's ablivingwell@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's show.
Hi, welcome back. Dr. Jim Slaughter and I are here to help you now in this segment learn how to get your needs met. In the first segment, we talked about identifying your needs and the importance of doing that so that you can feel loved, so that you can ask people for what you need, or that you can reach out for support or do things to get those needs met so that you don't start trying to do it in inappropriate ways, either being too pushy, demanding, manipulative if you do it quietly. Right. Which, I came from a family where there weren't subtle messages. People didn't do things subtly. They just said it outwardly. And so I never could quite figure out, and I don't do very well with passive aggressive because if I can't pick up on the cues to know what people are trying to subtly tell me. I really need it with words. I'm learning more and more over the years, little subtle things to realize that the person's upset or the person is feeling hurt or angry or something like that. But you are much better with those subtle cues, Jim.
Well, the reason I recognize them so well is because I'm so good at giving them out. And I try not to be that way anymore because I think it's a dysfunctional and a means of getting needs met. And I've learned that through the years. We talk about being aggressive on one end of the spectrum, which is not a good thing. Being passive on the other end of the spectrum, which is not a good thing. So in the middle, the way that we really try to be is to be assertive, which means that I simply speak about or tell what I would like to have or what I want, and then go from there.
Well, and the reason the passive aggressive, the subtle things, and it's such a bad name in my opinion, passive aggressive, but that's our term right now. But it's that you do it subtly. You do it through cues, either facial cues or saying things that you don't really like. Instead of saying, "Would you like?" or "Don't you want to pick that up?" Instead of just saying, "Hey, can you pick that up?" Hints. What a great word, hints. That's what I mean. And the reason is that people don't understand them. And if you grew up in a family where you guys all spoke that language, you kind of all, as best as you could, you used that language and it worked. But usually there's always someone in the family it doesn't work for. But when you get out in the real world, I mean, most people, they have different languages that they spoke. Different cues mean different things. And so it just doesn't work out in the world as an adult. And then, on the other side, the aggressive doesn't work well either, and so that's why it's important not to do it that way. And so,
yeah. And the problem is it develops because, when we were younger, and we expressed verbally what our need is. I'd like this. Can I do this? Here's what I want. We were ashamed. We were made to feel guilty because we even wanted that or we asked for it. We were put down in some way. And I'm talking about some families, and so we learn in a sense not to be expressive. And so we learn to hint. We learn to because we don't want to get in trouble.
Well, and I think like my family, I didn't get in trouble, but we just didn't do it. It's weird. My mom was so self-sufficient. So I didn't learn to really ask for what I needed too much. I just tried to be very self-sufficient. And in lots of ways I was, as a kid, that's not as hard. But still, over time, it became that because I remember after my second child, we got a new house and a new puppy. Not a good combination, new baby, new house, new puppy. And I just felt so maxed out. And it started getting me really down that I couldn't take care of all the laundry. I couldn't get the laundry all done anymore. I couldn't get the groceries, everything that I used to completely always be able to do. And so for me, it all collapsed after my second child. But I think that some people it's earlier and some people it's later. I had been very self-sufficient and I had never had to ask people for help. Not help, right? And so for me, even the thought, I thought, okay, I'll join this babysitting co-op. Sounded great. But then I started thinking, so if I take her two kids to help her out, she helps me with my 2, then eventually I have to help her, and then I'll have 4. Oh my gosh, I don't think I can handle 4. And so, somebody cooked me a meal, and I thought I would usually have cooked the meal back plus more, right? Like I always had to even the score, and I always could. I wanted to do back what anybody did for me, so I didn't, even though I didn't logically think about it like that, like I was evening the score, it never entered my mind. It was that I would do it back for them. But there became a time in my life that became hard.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I needed to start asking for help. And I remember struggling with, I don't want to look needy. I don't want to be needy. And what's interesting is I started learning how to identify what my needs were and to ask for them. Mm-hmm. And then people started telling me I was needy as an adult, and they were joking about it. Like joking, okay, because they had always known me to not be like that. Mm-hmm. And so for me to be like that to them, now eventually it all panned out and they didn't do that anymore, but they would say I was needy, and mm-hmm. so part of realizing it's just human, and especially when you get maxed out, we all get maxed out. And so when we talk about needs, one of the things that the new term over the last, since 98, when the Boundaries book came out, a lot of people use the word boundaries. And so boundaries is just really getting your needs met by knowing how to set boundaries, meaning knowing what to say, telling people what you like, telling people what you don't like. It's like just really defining for people who you are. And so you do that by just telling them who you are and who you are not.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we say is a way to get your needs met. We say one of the ways to do it is to set good boundaries. And it's not just what I do or do not allow other people to do to me or with me. It's also what I allow myself to do or not to do. I draw a boundary line, and I say, okay, from now on, here's what I want to do. I want to do this, or I don't want to do that. And as we fulfill those boundaries, as we maintain them, we feel a lot happier and more secure, actually.
And it is weird when you're not used to speaking it out and asking for what you want. You will seem needy in the beginning, or mean, or cruel, or to tell someone that you've never told because they just love pizza and you go out with them for pizza, okay, but you really don't like pizza, mm-hmm. and you just got along, to finally say, I don't really like pizza. I like lasagna. I like this, yeah. But I don't really like pizza, right? Or, like for me as a teenager, all my friends wanted to go see Halloween, and, even my gymnastics coach, they were all not telling me, so I would get there. They took me to this movie, and it ended up being When a Stranger Calls, or one of those scary. No, it was it was like Halloween Part 3 or something like that, and it terrified me, and it took me one day just jumping up and running out of the theater. It was so scary. I think that was Goodfellas. I was older, and people were like, what? And I was like, I can't watch those movies. And they're like, okay, we won't take Ann to scary movies. It was funny, and they had no problem with it once I told them.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that we think people aren't going to like us anymore if we draw boundary lines and maintain boundaries. If we say in an assertive way, this is what I'd like, this is what I don't want, sometimes we believe that they won't like us anymore, or they'll think down, look down on us. They'll, think we're a lesser person than we want to be thought of. And so, but that's not really true. The truth is that when we are assertive and we express what we'd like, people think more of us. It's actually a way of gaining respect.
Well, and what's interesting is people understand us better, and I think what draws people together in the beginning is our similarities. And so when you start defining where you're similar and where you're different, people start realizing you're different. There are differences. And so you're afraid by pointing those out, you won't be included, mm-hmm. kind of, right? You'll be excluded instead of included. Yeah. And so in some ways, it's true in that they'll invite you to the things they know you like, and maybe not to the things they know you don't like. Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll invite you, but understand that you won't go. But there's also another way of setting boundaries. For me, I was just overwhelmed with the new baby in the house and the new puppy and everything. So one of the things I did was took an organizing class. Well, I think the class was kept cleverly disguised how to manage your time, but it was basically how to clean your house. And so based on your personality type. And so that was for me learning a new skill. And then I had these boundaries I set for myself every day based on my personality. I picked what fit. And for me, it was doing 2 loads of laundry a day, making a priority list of what was the most important things, and prioritize them, and then meet with my family and say, these are my top priorities. I need help with other things. So, top priority would meaning having food, having clothes to wear that were clean, right? It didn't mean what I had said before for myself, which was because they weren't realistic, like all clothes clean. I wanted, it's hard for me to stop until something's done, or, everything, everything cleaned, all the laundry done, all the food, everything for me to feel good about myself for the day. And I found that impossible. So being able to set boundaries for myself to say, this is realistic and this is what I can do. This is what I need help with, and meet with the family and say, who can help me with this and who can help me with that? And when I did that, they all helped. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what you were actually doing was you were applying one of the other 3 ways to get your needs met, which is developing new habits.
Yes.
New habit patterns. A good example of a boundary, you've mentioned several already, but for example, might be for a person who allows themselves to get caught up in their work all the time, is to say, okay, from now on, one of my boundaries is to leave the office no later than 5 o'clock or whatever it is.
That's targeted towards me, isn't it? Right, because that was.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, because I was also a workaholic. But I know for me, one of the things I did for myself was, because what would blow me away, and I'm sure none of you guys ever do this, but I'm a numbers person. So when I was on the computer doing billing, I would tell them I was done counseling, and I'd say, hey, I'll be home in about 45 minutes. I'd start doing billing, and then I'd look at my watch later, and it would be hours, like 2 or 3 hours. That's terrible, I know, but I just get so caught up, and I do enjoy what I do, and I do enjoy numbers, which is very weird. I know, as a math major, and that's just strange in itself. But so what I did for myself, and I don't know if you guys wanted me to do this or I did it myself. I think I did it myself. I don't have a computer for me at work. I do anything like that. I hired a billing person. But before that, I brought the computer home so that if I was doing billing, you guys could get in my face when it was time.
Right. And, you actually did install some really great habits to go ahead and change that. And, but, one of the things that gave us an opportunity to set boundaries too and say, Mom, we need you to come home at this time. Okay. Don't exaggerate when you're saying I'm going to be home in 45 minutes or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I had time issues. You see how I said had? I had time issues.
They're much, much better.
Much, much better.
Yeah.
I do too much. I plan too much in a too short amount of time. And I do think that some people are time challenged. I'm just going to say that, because I remember saying the amount of time it would take me to get to the mall. I can get there and everyone in my family looked at me like I was crazy. No, it takes longer than that. And so I've learned to get help with that. And also I set boundaries for myself, and you guys help that as well. And so those are things to get your needs met. Anything else, Jim?
Well, yeah. And in fact, as we teach these things who are coaching people, clients who come in for coaching, we say we focus on 3 ways to get your needs met. One is setting good boundaries. One, as you mentioned, I usually make this number 3, but it's developing new habits, new habit patterns to get my needs met. And the other one would be eliminating tolerations, we call them, from our lives. And that's for me, that was one of the best things. And I gave myself freedom to eliminate some things that just bug me every day. And so this helps us with things like procrastination. And so I eliminate things that, I walk by something and every day, and it's there every day, and it bugs me every day. Well, let's get rid of that.
Like weeds. Weeds do that to you.
Weeds bug me. Yes, they do.
Yes. And so every time you got out of the car and you walk past it, you see those weeds. Now it's interesting because we have a different house now. So you don't walk past the weeds now, but we'd walk past our landscaping looked great because it would, cause him stress, and it would drain his energy to see those weeds. So he would always be pulling them. And I would think, God, you love to pull weeds. I know I've said this before on the show, but he was like, no, I just can't stand seeing them. And, and for me, it was not being able to get the house done or having the laundry pile up in the laundry room. So taking a class to learn how to be okay with that so it didn't drain my energy. And I have weird things like I like the garage in order. I don't know why. I like to park in the garage. And if I can't park in the garage, it just bothers me. It's just weird. And so for me, and so if things bother you, you want to figure out a way to do something about them. Now, what a lot of women do, and I'm just telling you because I see a lot of women that do this, they will come in week after week after week after week complaining that their husband has not pulled the weeds in the landscape and their husband has not planted those flowers or planted this or done that or mowed the lawn. And so I know it's draining them. And so my question for them is, why don't you just do it? That's the easiest way to get that need met so it doesn't bother you anymore. Why don't you just do it? And you should see the lights that come on. I mean, it's like, what? I mean, they'd spent 4 weeks trying to, however you can say, pushy, manipulative, angry, whatever, to get their husband or child or somebody to do something. And coming in frustrated, I'm thinking that's a lot of time spent. And if you just took that energy instead and just went and did it, you'd have it done. And they're like, wow, so what happens when they come back? It's done.
Right. And people take that advice. At first, though, it seems like you shouldn't have to do that because it's his job.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that's not working. That's not working for you. And so if you go ahead and do it, or here's another thing you can do. If you can, you could pay somebody else to do it. All right. Yeah. You don't have to be the one. You could pay somebody. And then the husband says, what did you spend this money for? Because you weren't doing it. And I just had to have it done. Needed to have it done. So I paid somebody else to do it.
Yeah, because usually that other person you're trying and it's upsetting you so bad and it's causing you physical health problems. I mean, that's draining your energy.
Absolutely.
And so I'm concerned about you and all the effort you're putting in and it's not working. And so it's so easy to get rid of that toleration and not have that. And paying someone is a really good way. There are people that, they start doing it themselves and their spouse or family immediately will be out there. Why are you doing that? I told you I'd do that.
Right.
Well, but another suggestion I make is say, hey, can we, not you, because nobody really likes to be told what to do.
Right.
I mean, kids don't even like it. They just have no choice. But adults don't like to be told what to do. So I suggest to them, instead of saying you, why don't you say we, or would you help me do this? And it's amazing how people respond differently.
Yeah, it changes a person's outlook. Yeah, for sure. That's a good way to do it.
So what's another toleration that you had?
Well, you mentioned the garage, but I was trying to think of my tolerations here. I've spent so much time trying to really remove them, eliminate them, but one of my tolerations has been to put things off.
Yeah.
And so, as we were even thinking about this going through for the program, I was thinking, I'm much better about doing things immediately than I used to be, but I still would like to. I tolerate this in myself. And the truth is, it leads to stress. It leads to anxiety. It leads to criticism from other people who see us putting things off that need to be done, that kind of thing. And I've talked about maintaining our cars, so making sure that the car is maintained, making sure, in fact, maintenance in every way, making sure the house is maintained, not putting things off, replacing light bulbs. That's a small thing. But sometimes they'll go, for days or weeks with, light bulbs not replaced.
It's interesting because the things you mentioned are actually things I see that bother you. So those are all, you're tolerating them, meaning they're bothering you, because like the bulbs, I notice that they go out, right? But it doesn't bother me. I'll be like, oh, I need to change that sometime. But it doesn't cause me, I don't get drained energy from it. Now I like light, okay, but so the things that you mentioned that you procrastinate on at times, there are also things that are draining your energy. So you're putting up with these tolerations, and when they pile up, they're draining more and more and more of your energy.
Right.
And so for your health, you could hire someone to do it. You could have a friend help you. You could have a family member help you. Anything like that is a suggestion.
Yeah, and the topic of our program is having our needs met. How to meet your needs, how to make sure your needs are met.
Good point.
And so one of the ways we do that is by eliminating tolerations. If I have a need for order in my life, if I have a need for calmness and peace, then one of the ways I can achieve that is by not procrastinating, because when I see these things undone, I feel disorderly. I think things are out of order. I don't feel calm and peace. I feel anxiety. Okay. So I eliminate tolerations, things I've been putting up with, and it makes me feel better. I'm a happier man.
So, we're not just saying eliminate them. We're not just saying get rid of tolerations. We're actually going to teach you that in the next segment. We're going to take a break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about how to actually develop these habits so that you can meet those needs and get rid of those tolerations. Right?
Right.
We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter for more great ideas at Voice America Empowerment.
Sunshine Herbs in Saginaw, Texas, on Main Street, Business 287, has all of your supplement needs and healthy food products. So, my suggestion for you, visit Sunshine Herbs today and let their knowledgeable staff who know all their products and their naturopathic doctor lead you to a life of health and wellness so that you too can live well.
Life Solutions Coaching and Counseling in Fort Worth, Texas is a full-service wellness clinic providing individual, group, and family counseling, one-on-one coaching for life and wellness, and naturopathic treatments of medical massage therapy combined with essential oils to ensure you reach your health and wellness goals. Sessions are available in person or by phone. Get started on your new life today. Just call 817-232-1363 or go to LifeSolutionsCoachingandCounseling.com or email them at lifesolutionscc@yahoo.com.
We're on Facebook along with some of the greatest minds of the world, and that includes you. Visit us on Facebook at Voice America Empowerment.
You are listening to Living Well with Ann Beal. We'd love to hear from you with comments and questions about the show. Please send us an email to ablivingwell@gmail.com. That's ablivingwell@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's show.
Welcome back. Guys, we're really glad that you're here listening today. We want to encourage you to send us emails at ablivingwell@gmail.com or check out our Facebook page. It's Ann Beal. Or you can contact us at Life Solutions Coaching and Counseling at 817-232-1363. We are actually in Hazlet, Texas, just in North Fort Worth in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And so we would love to hear from you. If you would like to contact Dr. Jim Slaughter, you can reach him at J Slaughter. That is, how do you want to spell that? Can I spell it the way I spell it?
Sure.
Okay, I spell it S with laughter. So JSLAUGHTER PhD@yahoo.com. Yes, he's a PhD. He is a PhD, but I'm smarter. No, just kidding. Okay, so we want you, now that we're back, we talked about how the importance of getting your needs met. What happens if you don't get your needs met? You become a victim, or you get bitter and resentful. And it just drains your energy if you can't get your needs met. And so you just put up with tolerations. You tolerate things that stress you out. And everyone has them. You can just look around your house and there's things you're tolerating. There's behaviors by your kids that you really don't like that you're tolerating. There's behaviors by your significant other that you're tolerating. Okay. Even your animals tolerating, that they just aren't well trained. Okay. And so it's never too late to start over. If you weren't happy yesterday, try something different today. And so don't stay stuck.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Don't stay stuck. Yeah. And so we're this segment, we're going to help you know how to set new habits.
Yeah, and we talked about the three main ways. One is to set good boundaries. Another is to eliminate tolerations. And the third one that we want to talk about now is to develop new habits.
So how will they do that? Tell us.
Well, going back to identifying the need, you decide on a need that's very important to you, that's very serious for you, one of your top needs. And one of the ways that you can ensure that need's going to be met is by taking some steps yourself by installing new habit patterns to do that. And for example, I was thinking about this myself, and one of my needs, at least as I addressed it early on, was to be appreciated. And it took me some time to believe that wasn't a selfish need. It's just a need. It's what I had. It's what I needed. And so, but then one of the things that I did to ensure that I began feeling more appreciated was to, and this is going to sound really funny, but at the end of every day, I'd be, either before I went to bed or I was lying in bed trying to, get to sleep, I would give myself a compliment. And I would acknowledge something that I did extremely well, did really well that day, and say, "Good job, Jim. You did great on that." And that sounds kind of strange, but it really is not, because it helps a person. It helped me feel appreciated. It helped me understand that I did something really, really well that brought appreciation and respect, even from other people, but certainly from myself.
And I think that's one of the main things that we came to see about meeting your own needs is that if it's to be appreciated, then you learn to appreciate yourself.
Yes, and so much could be said about that, because often we tend to criticize ourselves. We beat ourselves up so badly sometimes if we make even a small mistake. And so laying off of that self-criticism can be an important part of having our need met for appreciation.
Well, and to me, when you say that about yourself, and I remember early on when I was learning this about you through the coaching, I was very surprised because you don't come off like this at all. I mean, no one would know that you have a need to be appreciated, and a lot of people do. And I can tell when someone's saying one of their coworkers or actually one of their workers is starting to behave differently. I know that is probably one of the things that they aren't feeling appreciated, and they are starting to think about leaving or getting unhappy and considering leaving. Okay. Or they might not feel respected. And so, but it depends on the word that resonates with them. For you, it's appreciated. So what you did was start affirming yourself.
Right. And that's a good word to use. Self-affirmation, affirming myself. Yeah.
So if it's to be loved, then you would need to start loving yourself. And I think this is a very common one with pleasers. They work so hard loving everyone else.
Yeah.
But you know what they say on the airplane? Put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Right.
Before the other person, not to be cruel and selfish and self-centered, but you will pass out before you get the oxygen mask on the other person.
Right.
So both of you will die. So instead, what you do is you have to learn to love yourself. And that isn't like the 70s, like love yourself, whatever. Well, I don't mean it like that. I mean, truly do things loving for yourself.
Yeah, give yourself gifts, and
Right.
not material kinds of things, but give yourself the luxury, for example. If you need calmness and peace, give yourself the luxury of providing yourself some calmness and peace. That is, give yourself 30 minutes of downtime every day, installing a new habit of doing that, however that might be. You can read, you can journal, you can walk, you can do lots of kinds of things. But in doing those things and giving yourself that luxury, you're loving yourself.
And I had a client who really needed beauty. She needed beauty around her, and she lived in a beautiful place and moved here for work. And the place, her apartment was just killing her. It was just draining her every day. And so one of her habits she came up with was, number one, she wanted to work on working towards buying a house where she wanted. So that was an ongoing thing. But number two, to make it immediate, she started saying, I'm going to bring beautiful things into my apartment.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
And she painted her walls. Okay. And so if you do a habit to be appreciated, you were doing that every day. And then when you set a habit, you know what they say about a habit? It takes 21 days. So for 21 days, what would you do?
Well, for 21 days, using the example that I gave earlier, every night before I went to sleep, I would think of something that I did really, really well during that day. It could have to do with my job, or it could have to do with working in the yard. It could have almost anything, But I identified that, and I acknowledged that I did it really, really well. I affirmed myself, and I would do that every night for 21 days. And what that does is it gets into your head that you are a person who does good things. and who is accomplished in certain areas. And so in that, you feel more and more appreciated.
Yes, and affirmations do work. I mean, I think people think they're too simple, so they don't work. And what's interesting is meeting your own needs is very simple and it works. But it seems so simple. A lot of people don't like simple things for change because they don't believe it. Because they've been taught somewhere along the line that it's got to be hard. It's got to be painful. You have no pain, no gain, right?
Right.
And it isn't true when it comes to changing yourself. You can do it simply. And so for me, it was an affirmation that I was priceless.
Right. I remember that. That was great.
And mine was I didn't know at that time what my need was, but I was having trouble telling people my rate for counseling,
Right.
And it what everyone was telling me that I deserved based on my background, I just stared at them like, really? Like what? And this was a long time ago, but to be able to say, this is my fee,
that was hard for you.
It was hard. Yeah. And so everyone in the coaching group went around saying what they thought I might be, what my need might be, or an affirmation that might resonate with me, what they were thinking. And one of the persons said to be priceless. And it really caught my attention because we had been in France and we'd been at the Louvre and the museum where the Mona Lisa was, and all these people were lined up for like a long time waiting, and I got in the line because I was like, I wonder what they're all going to go see. And so we wandered through the line, eventually got up there, and it was the Mona Lisa, and it is not very big, and it really isn't very pretty. Now, there might be people there that are like, what? They're art people. I just went, that's the Mona Lisa. I mean, I'd seen it, in pictures, but it doesn't look any different. It's just right there. But beside it, it said priceless.
Yeah.
And I said something in line about priceless, like what exactly does that mean? Because everything else would have a price. And then the security guard said, there's not enough money in the world to buy that. And I thought, whoa. Wow. So when they said after that was later on that year, to me, you're priceless. I went, wow, I like that one.
Right.
I like that one.
So that became your affirmation statement.
Because I'm the only one in the world like me. Thank God. And so I just would start saying that every day. And I did it while I was biking.
How many times a day would you say it?
Once. Oh, how many times? During biking, it was 200 times.
200 times, yeah.
And in my case, I definitely needed it a lot to kind of compete with the fears of people hanging up on me, or what all those negative statements that are said in your head about what people will do that you're so afraid of. Mm-hmm. And so they say 100 to 200 times, and it only took like 5 minutes. It didn't take me very long. I'm priceless. I'm priceless. I always come up with real simple ones. You come up with longer, complicated ones.
Well, it's better to have short and concise affirmations rather than long and complicated ones.
Right.
And usually, you need to be able to say an affirmation statement in like just a few seconds.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, and that way it won't take very long. And so affirmations are good. What else did you do?
One of the things I did was because I determined I needed calmness and order in my life. And one of the things I did was to give myself the gift of downtime every day. And so then that looks like different things to me. It could be a short walk. It could be browsing through an antique store. It could be reading a novel for, a few minutes or half an hour or something like that. But the most important part of that, is to give myself those times, those down times, but not feel guilty about it. Because there's something that makes people like me want to feel guilty for giving themselves time like that. You're lazy, you bum, get up and do something that counts, okay? And so those kinds of negative self-talk would just really get in my head. So this was a big deal for me, to give myself just down time when I didn't have to do anything if I didn't want to. Just enjoy some downtime,
Which you never did. I remember asking you, like I was out and I said, I just stopped and walked at a park on the way here. And you were like, what? Well, you just thought that was so weird. He thought it was so weird when we were younger.
That was a long time ago.
I stopped and watched the dolphins along the highway. And you never took any time like that. I mean, everything was purposeful for you.
Yeah, there was a time when that was true, and it just, it wore me out. I ran out of gas, and that's what happens when people don't have their needs met. They run out of gas.
And I had this spontaneousness about me that you always liked.
Well, I still love that about you. My personality style is to be purposeful and plan and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's not that you don't do that. It's just that you are so spontaneous with things, and it really is exciting and rejuvenating to me to have you be that way.
And yet, for me,
also a little scary. But
so for me, one of my needs really was to be more structured, and so that wasn't on the list. And I remember realizing I needed more structure.
Okay.
And so how did I do that? I keep a planner, which they never taught us how to use planners, right? And even kids get them today. They're never taught how to use them. So I had to, one of the great things working for EDS and MSA was they had us take Dale Carnegie classes and First Things First and all these kinds of things. So those helped me so much be able to know how to structure and keep up with things. And I still, though, I have too much and I'll forget things. And, if I don't have it written down, it's bad. And so finding out how to do that was how I met that need and instilled the habit of keeping my journal every day. And I know that some people, if it is, a need to feel loved or a need to feel respected, I think that I had a client who honesty was so important to her. But she wasn't listening and not being honest with herself a lot. And so I think to be heard is a very important one. When people get mad, if you don't remember what they said, or if they get mad, or if you get mad, somebody who's out there gets mad because they don't you realize you talked to them, they acted like they heard it, but then later they didn't remember it. And it just makes you kind of crazy. People who have that issue, I notice often they don't listen to themselves, their intuition or the statements in their brain that'll make suggestions about what they need. And it's really, in my opinion, their heart trying to say, take some time down, do this or do that. They ignore that and kind of live by what other people are doing. They're not listening to themselves. So a habit would be every day journaling and just listening what's in your head. And then respecting it as though it's legitimate. And it kind of depends on how people feel about that. And some people say to be heard. Some people say to be what they said to be important. They want to be important. So when they speak, they want people to take them seriously.
Well, and a way to work on that is to speak up more. A lot of people they won't speak up, and so that's a part of being assertive, is speaking up and telling people what you would like and that kind of thing.
So I know that you'll assign for people once a day, say something they want to say outwardly.
Yes.
To someone. If I have friendship is one of these. And so I'll suggest, people who are terrified to make friends, okay, they can join some place that would put them around people. But a daily habit would be one of the things I had someone do is introduce themselves. Because people wear name tags at the grocery store in their town, especially like here in Hazlet or Nasal where we are today. If you just introduce yourself and you say their name because you see their name, people love to hear their name. So I have them just introduce themselves, hear their name, and then they know that person.
That's a great idea.
So every time they walk into that store, they say hi.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like a lot of people, they love going to church. So they meet people and then they look forward to seeing them, right? And so if all those people left the church and they were the only ones that they knew going there, it makes it harder to want to go. Friendships do that. So you introduce yourself. Yeah. You say hi, you're friendly. So if you want people to be friendly to you, a habit would be friendly at least one person every day.
Right. And that would be a good new habit to develop to get your needs met.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. These are great. Thanks, guys, for listening in. And I hope you can set new habits to meet your needs. Have a great week, and we'll see you here next week on Living.
Thank you again for joining us. Living Well with Ann Beal airs live every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. We can't wait to see you again next week.
Thanks again for listening to the preceding program brought to you on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. For more information about